With the A2 expansion just being 11 days away from releasing in Pokemon TCG Pocket, it's time to talk about some things that we are guaranteed to see and some things that we might see. But before we actually start talking about it, there are a few things to please keep in mind here. First of all, this is my personal opinion and my personal predictions. And as you can see right here with this Meganium, I'm gonna show you some cards. That does not mean that I'm saying these exact cards are gonna release with the new expansion, in case that wasn't obvious. I'm just showing you these cards as a visual representation for the Pokemon that I'm talking about it at this time. Also, I'm not gonna just make some crap up out of nowhere, but I will base my predictions onto stuff that actually makes some sense, and I'm gonna explain some things to you right now. So if we look at our current game, the A1 set that we have in the game available right now, then we can see the set is based around Gen 1, and we have every single Gen 1 Pokemon represented in the game. So it is very likely to assume and to predict that the A2 expansion will be based around Gen 2. Especially because, if you remember, with the Mythical Island expansion that we got a while back, they released Celebi, which is one of the core Pokemon of Gen 2. So it's not far-fetched to say that they released Celebi as a little hint as to what the next expansion will be based around. And for these reasons, we will talk about every single Gen 2 Pokemon and how it might release into Pocket. I will just give a little prediction and a little opinion. Right, otherwise if I talk too long about every single card, then this video will be 5 hours long, and that's not the point. So we will do this in quick succession and we will sort everything by type. So first of all, we're gonna talk about the plant archetype and then move on to fire, water. You get the point, right? So let's start off now by talking about the plant type. And first of all, we're gonna have Meganium. And again, if we look at the A1 set that we have right now, then every single starter Pokemon is actually, and they have two versions, one normal version and one EX version. And it's again very likely to predict that A2 will follow the trend and will have every single one of their starters have a regular version and an EX version, and the same will be true to Meganium. So real quick, do I think Meganium will be like meta? I don't think so, because I think Serperior will be the stage 2 that will be meta, it will stay that way. I don't see any deck playing 2 stage 2 Pokemon, so I don't think, no matter what Meganium might do, it will most likely not gonna be viable no matter what. And next up we will have Ledian, that's the stage 1, and this will be a throwaway. Quick disclaimer again, if I refer to a Pokemon as a throwaway, then it will just be trash, it will be filler and completely unplayable garbage, like this Woobat and Woobat, for example, So Ledian, complete throwaway. And Blossom, I don't know where they would ever go with this Pokemon. This is also a stage 2, and as I already explained with Meganium, Superior will be the stage 2, there's no way a deck plays 2 stage 2s, so Blossom, I'm sorry, but you're gonna be a throwaway. And we're gonna continue the trend, Jumpluff, another stage 2, I don't see it, throwaway. But then we have Sunflora, that's a stage 1, and there is a slight possibility that this might be viable, because it could act, as you can see here, it could act like kind of like a second Celebi, but instead of just flipping coins like Celebi, you detach energy from Sunflower, and the more energy you detach, the more damage it does. If this turns out to be the case, then Sunflower has potential. Yanma is very interesting because Yanma is a basic Pokemon, and that's exactly what the plant type needs. We only have Dhelmise right now, so Yanma's potential is very high, and I could totally see that one being played in the meta. Now Heracross, whoa, yeah, okay, that's one of the big boys. I think Heracross is actually the #1 best plant type card that they will release with the A2 expansion. It just depends as to will Heracross get an EX version right away or not. That is the big thing to consider here, but let's say even Heracross, if Heracross gets an EX Pokemon, it's gonna be meta. I can like pretty much guaranteed it will then replace Celebi. But even if Heracross wouldn't get an EX Pokemon, it's still a basic, and again, that's just what the plant type needs. So yeah, it has a very high potential to be meta, even if it doesn't get an EX version. So yeah, keep an eye out for Heracross. Yeah, one thing real quick, keep in mind that Heracross could actually also turn out to be a fighting type instead of a plant type. That will be a little bit of a bummer, but yeah, will have to see, and most likely it's gonna be plant type. Moving on to the fire type, yeah, we talk first about Typhlosion. Again, that's a starter Pokemon, so it will get an EX version and a regular version, but Typhlosion will have a really hard time to actually become meta, because yeah, first of all, it has to be better than Charizard, which is already not easy, and we have some pretty cracked other fire type Pokemon, as you will see in a second, that will be released with A2. So well, Typhlosion, I don't see that thing in the meta at all. Yeah, then we have Magcargo. I think this will just end up being a complete throwaway. Stage 1 Pokemon are already well represented with the fire type, especially due to Arcanine EX. So Magcargo, throwaway. And here we go again, Entei. So yeah, kinda like Heracross, but yeah, even more crazy actually, because if Entei gets an EX version, that is gonna be absolutely ridiculous, and it's gonna be meta, like almost guaranteed, right? I think I don't need to explain to you why. Yeah, but there's a very high possibility that Entei does not get an EX version, and then yeah, it might get into trouble, because the premier basic Pokemon in fire type decks is Moltres. But yeah, Entei is very hard to predict. Like if it gets an EX version, it's pretty much guaranteed meta, but if it doesn't, yeah, then it really depends just on how good will it actually be. But keep an eye out for Entei regardless. And then we have Ho-Oh. Yeah, wow, that's also a gigantic monster. Just it's pretty much in the same ballpark as Entei. It really depends, will it get an EX version right away or will it not, and if it doesn't, then how good will it be? But yeah, with Entei and Ho-Oh releasing both as basic Pokemon for the fire type, like it can become really a force to be reckoned with, and we gotta watch out. Imagine they both get an EX version, then we have Moltres, Ho-Oh and Entei. Whoa, that might be ridiculous. So yeah, like be prepared. Alright, let's continue talking about the water types. So we have a starter here again. It will get both regular and EX versions. So what this contests with is Blastoise. It has to be substantially better than Blastoise, because yeah, even Blastoise does not have a spot in the meta whatsoever. So Feraligatr has to be much better than Blastoise to make the cut. Will it accomplish that? I doubt it, but yeah, there's a possibility, you never know. But yeah, I don't think so. Spoiler alert here a little bit. I don't actually believe Gyarados will be replaced, but maybe there is something that could replace Gyarados. But yeah, let's continue for now. Talking about Piloswine real quick. Yeah, this thing will be throwaway trash until we get Mamoswine, and that's gonna take a while. So yeah, Piloswine, throwaway. We have Colorless, so yeah, the water type already, it doesn't even use basic Pokemon, even though it has very good basic Pokemon with, for example, Articuno EX, and that thing is completely dead and sees no play anymore, so Colorless would have to be substantially better than Articuno EX, and I see no world in where this would ever be the case, so Colorless for me is a throwaway. Octillery, yeah, that is an interesting Pokemon because it could function as another draw engine or something like that. It's only a stage 1, so yeah, it depends on what it's will it have an ability and what will that ability be. I don't see this being an attacker at all, so yeah, we have to wait and see. Will it have an ability? How good will that ability be? And maybe it will function as a draw engine, and then it has very high potential. And Delibird, yeah, this is the same case as Colorless is, the water type again. It doesn't play basic Pokemon, while it does have a good basic Pokemon with Articuno EX, so Delibird is not gonna outclass that, so that's throwaway trash. And we can continue this trend with basic Pokemon that will not be viable in water type decks, but Mantine, out of all of those three, right? Colorless, Delibird and Mantine has the highest potential here to be good, because there was a point in time where Mantine was decent in the original TCG. So yeah, you never know, but if you want my prediction here, my honest prediction, I think Mantine is also gonna be just a throwaway. Azumarill, yeah, that is a curse because it's a stage 1 and it's not gonna provide any utility. So it's gonna be an attacker, and yeah, that pretty much means it has no chance to ever be viable because it would have to be better than Gyarados EX. And yeah, spoiler alert, that is not gonna happen. I 100% guarantee that. So yeah, Azumarill is gonna be a throwaway. And we have Politoed. Now that is another one that is very hard to predict, because that could be a stage 2 for the water type that provides utility by having a very good ability. So yeah, this could replace the Greninja, but yeah, it all depends on, will it have an ability? How good will that ability be, right? That is what it all comes down to. But Politoed, don't sleep on it. It has potential, and yeah, definitely take a look at it, of course, when it comes out. And we have Quagsire, so that thing is a stage 1 and it might provide some utility for the water typing. It will battle for a spot in the meta with Octillery. That is very likely, but I see Octillery just having the edge here because yeah, Octillery has a higher chance of acting as a draw engine. If that's the case, then Octillery is definitely better. I don't see Quagsire being good enough to actually make the cut. And we have Kingdra. Now Kingdra is very hard to predict as well, because this thing might actually get an EX version. So yeah, it fights for a spot with Feraligatr, kind of. It has to be substantially better than Blastoise, and it kinda has to outclass Gyarados as well. It is a very tough to do that, but if Kingdra gets an EX version, you never know. Boah, yeah, I honestly don't see a stage 2 being viable in water type decks if it's an attacker. Like, the only way I can see a stage 2 being viable for water is if it has utility. As an attacker, it's gonna be rough. Like, you have to outclass Gyarados. That is just a stage 1, and there's Feraligatr will have an EX Pokemon, so it's gonna be rough, but it's not impossible. We will have to wait and see on this one, honestly. Do I believe? No, I don't. And now it's time for the big boy to enter the room, and that is Suicune. Now, that is the one basic Pokemon I can see being viable in water decks easily, right? Again, same as with Entei, if this gets an EX Pokemon, I can guarantee you that is gonna be meta and viable. Like, there's no way it would not be. But again, same as with Entei, if they don't get an EX version, then it highly depends. Like, we just have to wait and see. It's impossible to predict. But nonetheless, of course don't sleep on Suicune. I know you would never sleep on Suicune anyways, so yeah, even if this doesn't get an EX Pokemon, like, I see it being viable nonetheless. Same with Entei. Entei has more stuff that contests its spot as a basic in fire decks. Like, Suicune only has to be, quote unquote, only has to be better than Articuno EX, and if it accomplishes that, it's gonna be viable, right? So, yeah, Suicune has a very high chance to make it into the meta. Even if it doesn't get an EX. EX will be viable, guaranteed. Okay, moving on with the colorless typing. Yeah, we have Ferret. I think I don't need to explain to you why this is gonna be a complete throwaway trash. And yeah, just in general, like, stage 1 colorless Pokemon will have a really hard time. So yeah, but yeah, let's move on. Like, Ferret is gonna be throwaway trash. Exact same case with Apom, kind of. Maybe this thing has like a weird ability, but at best it's gonna be very niche. It's never gonna be meta, and it's gonna be throwaway trash. Or at best case for him is niche. Yeah, Dunsparce, if we talk about throwaway trash, then Dunsparce is like on top of the list pretty much. It's up there. Yeah, I have a snowball picture here. I actually mean Gramble, but regardless, it's gonna be throwaway trash, 100% guaranteed. Then we have Ursaring. Yeah, this thing is gonna be an attacker. It's gonna be a colorless stage 1. I don't see a world where this is ever playable, so to me this is gonna be throwaway trash. Then we have Porygon 2. Now this is a stage 1 for the colorless type that has potential, because yeah, often Porygon 2 turns out to have like a ridiculous attack or a very strong ability. You know, you never know with this guy. So this is actually something that, yeah, we should keep an eye out on for whatever, you know what I mean. Let's move on to Standline. Yeah, that's, to me it's an absolute joke. Just looking at it I have to laugh. So yeah, it's gonna be throwaway trash. I can, like, that is very much guaranteed. Smeargle, yeah, I mean, same as like kind of with Porygon 2 EX, this thing maybe have something weird going on. But yeah, I don't have hope for this card. I think it's going to be complete trash. So I will give Smeargle a throwaway. But yeah, I'm not so certain on that one. But still, throw it away. Then we have Blissey. This is a stage 1. Maybe this thing has a good ability that heals Pokemon, yada yada. I mean, I don't see this ever being viable. What could it have, right? The best thing that it could have is heal. And it's not gonna be viable, right? In a deck that has healed, there will be better heals, maybe. I don't know. I don't see it being ever viable, so it's a throwaway for me. Now, Lugia. That's an interesting one. So yeah, we all know, obviously, Lugia is an absolute powerhouse. It's a beloved Pokemon, and that thing will have something going on. The question is here, since it is a colorless Pokemon, it could be played in every single deck out there, so they cannot possibly go overboard with this and make it a real threat, because you could throw a real threat into every single deck. They should be very cautious as to what they actually do with Lugia here. This is impossible to predict, because yeah, it's a colorless Pokemon. It could like be in every deck. There's so many shenanigans that could go on with this card. And yeah, it was like on top of the meta. It was the best deck in the Pokemon TCG for a very long time, and that time is not even too long ago. So Lugia scares the crap out of me, and I hope the developers will be careful with what they do with Lugia, especially if they develop an EX right away. Like, that is very, very scary. And there's Noctowl. This thing is going to be completely trash and a throwaway. Bye. So let's move on to the dark type, and first of all talk about Ariados. Now this thing, do I see it being good? No, I don't. But this card could go into many different directions. It could give you free retreat, it could poison, it could trap you, it could do so many different things. And yeah, depends on, I hope they give it like a weird combination, something unique to it that no other Pokemon has, like a trap and a poison at the same time. That could actually be legit, but yeah, I don't see this thing being any good ever, honestly. But yeah, it has some potential because it could do a combination of things that is too unique to it, and it could be a pain in the butt. But yeah, I don't see it being good ever. And there's something else to keep in mind here, and that is that it could also turn out to be a grass type. Next up we have Umbreon, and yeah, Umbreon that's like the big hope that the dark type has in this expansion. And since yeah, we are moving into Gen 2, and the types that were released in Gen 2, the archetypes that were released in Gen 2 are the dark type and the steel type. And with Umbreon being the big hope for the dark type, and with dark type not having any X Pokemon just yet, and with how popular Umbreon is, like all the signs point to that Umbreon will get an EX, and it's gonna be really fucking good. That is my prediction. I think Umbreon will be the card that makes the dark type like top tier, S tier, maybe A tier. Like, Umbreon is gonna be super freaking good. Yeah, for the reasons that I just listed. Gen 2 released the dark type. Umbreon is very beloved. It's like one of the most beloved Pokemon ever. So yeah, make Umbreon good, please. Like, that would be amazing. And we have Murkrow. Super interesting, because what does the dark type desperately need? It's a basic Pokemon. Dark type does not have a single good basic Pokemon, so Murkrow could be exactly that. It could provide utility, or like a very annoying attack, you know, something that is just very, very good. As a basic Pokemon for the dark type, it would be amazing. And another Pokemon that falls into kind of the same category as to it could be the basic Pokemon that the dark type needs, and that is Qwilfish. I don't believe Qwilfish will be the thing for multiple reasons. First of all, we have Murkrow, and I think they should make Murkrow the premier basic Pokemon for the dark type. But there are more reasons, and those are that Qwilfish might also turn out to actually be a water type and not a dark type. And there's one more thing. We also will get Sneasel, and Sneasel could also be the premier basic Pokemon for the dark type. It could be really, really fast. So it deals a lot of damage for very little energy investment. It can do a lot of shenanigans, right? So yeah, make Murkrow and or Sneasel the premier basic Pokemon for the dark type, please, and not Qwilfish. We will also get Houndoom, which is a stage 1, and that is exactly what the dark type does not need. Dark type needs better stage 2 Pokemon, it needs better basic Pokemon, and it needs an EX. Stage 1 we already have enough, like Weezing, Arbok, Magdos are all good. We don't need another stage 1. So I think this will end up as a throwaway, but yeah, there's certainly still some potential, because yeah, I think dark type will become a top tier meta threat. So maybe Houndoom, yeah, they will do some shenanigans with it. We will have to wait and see, but I don't believe in it for the reasons that I just mentioned. And yeah, last but not least, we have the absolute powerhouse of the dark archetype with Tyranitar. it is in the same ballpark as many other Pokemon, and that is, if this thing gets an EX version, it's over. It's guaranteed gonna be meta, 100% guaranteed. The only problem here is that it might not get an EX version right away, because yeah, I mean, Dark type needs EX Pokemon, and the only one that I can see getting an EX is Umbreon, and I don't think that is enough. I think Dark type needs more EX Pokemon, so Tyranitar would be the perfect option to give an EX to, and that is very, very scary. I guarantee you guys, if this thing gets an EX Pokemon, it's gonna steamroll. It's gonna be like up there. It's gonna be top of the meta if this thing gets an EX Pokemon. And even if it doesn't get an EX Pokemon, I can see this thing still one-shotting stuff. So yeah, I mean, I know I don't need to tell you, but keep an eye out for Tyranitar. That thing is scary. So now we have the lightning type, and we start off with Lantern here, which is very, very interesting, because that is a stage 1 that could actually provide some utility to the lightning type, which is something that the lightning type currently doesn't have. We don't have any ability that supports us or something like that. So yeah, Lantern is very, very interesting, that's for sure. So yeah, keep an eye on that guy. Next up we have Ampharos, and yeah, this thing could turn out to be scary. Again, this is one of the most beloved Pokemon, yeah, from Gen 2 and in general. Like, many people love this thing. So that could possibly mean that it becomes viable, especially if it gets an EX version. And this thing is a stage 2. That is also something that the lightning type lacks. Currently there's no stage 2 Pokemon that is viable in a lightning type deck, so Ampharos could change that, and change is exactly what we need. So Ampharos, yeah, I mean, it's gonna be excuse me, it's gonna be a force to be reckoned with. If this thing gets an EX version of itself, it has a very, very high likelihood to become meta when we talk about the lightning type. But yeah, there are things that could destroy Ampharos' dreams, so to speak, in becoming viable. And yeah, one of the big reasons is that lightning type already has very good basic Pokemon, especially basic Pokemon, and yeah, there's some stage 1s that are very decent, and we get Lantern. So lightning type is all about being really, really quick, and the stage 2, yeah, that is maybe not something that the lightning type needs. And yeah, let me show you another reason that supports my argument here, and that is that we get Raikou. That is another basic Pokemon that might be ridiculously overpowered, just like Pikachu is, you know. So yeah, Raikou is also known for its speed start, right? It's very, very fast. It's lightning fast, ha. But so Raikou and Pikachu could actually team up to become, yeah, just be the meta, right? Pikachu gets a partner in crime, so to speak. And yeah, if that happens, then there is no space for stage 2. That means Ampharos is out of the picture. So Raikou, just as Entei and Suicune, if it gets an EX Pokemon, it's almost guaranteed to be viable. And yeah, Pikachu is gonna be its partner in crime, most likely. So yeah, lightning type decks stay really, really, really quick. Or they switch to an Ampharos meta. We will see and find out, but yeah, don't sleep on Raikou, of course. Next up we have the Psychic type, and we're gonna start off with Togetic. So yeah, I don't see any world where this would ever be viable. This will be a placeholder until we get Togekiss. So yeah, this is gonna be a throwaway until later. And yeah, remember that this could also turn out to be a colorless type actually, which would make, yeah, it stays a throwaway nonetheless. Then we have Xatu, which is kind of the same thing, but Xatu has more hope, because this might be a stage 1 with an ability or some shenanigan that acts as a draw engine, and that would be really, really interesting for the Psychic type. So I don't think Xatu will make the cut, but yeah, don't sleep on it. And we have Espeon, which, yeah, that thing is probably gonna become the new psychic meta. Like if we talk about psychic type, that's probably gonna be the meta type card, because this is a Pokemon that got introduced in Gen 2. It's another evolution. Everyone loves these EVs, so yeah, there's a very high likelihood that this will become viable. It might also be a card that is very quick, so yeah, if Espeon gets an EX version, definitely keep an eye on it, and yeah, watch out for this thing. And now we have Slowking, actually, excuse me, and oh my goodness, that thing is incredibly scary. And yeah, let me tell you the story as to why that is. That is a card, when that card released in the real TCG way back in the day, it made the game completely unplayable by having a ridiculously broken ability. Like, you can read this here for yourself. There's a translation error. This ability was meant to be only intact if this thing is your active Pokemon. But since this also works on the bench and you can stack multiple Slowkings on each other, this deck was unbeatable and it completely destroyed the game. So I hope the developers of Pocket they know what happened way back in the day, and they're not gonna repeat the same mistake. Like, make this thing something different. Make this thing like fast, make this Espeon's partner in crime, whatever, but please, for the love of God, watch out what you do with Slowking. And Mischievous, yeah, I see this thing as a complete throwaway. I mean, what could it have, right? Maybe it has some annoying sleep shenanigans, but yeah, I mean, it's not going to be good. Trust me, this thing is a throwaway. Another 100% guaranteed throwaway is Incognito. These things never did anything, and they will never do anything. So yeah, they're just filler. And yeah, just forget about Incognito, completely useless. Then we have Wobbuffet, which is really interesting, and that is a card that I could even see getting an EX Pokemon, right? For the Psychic type, and this could be a ridiculous wall for the Psychic type. That is what the Psychic type does not really have, right? I'm saying that very carefully, because yeah, there's Mewtwo EX, there's Mew with Budding Expeditioner, and yeah, but Wobbuffet could be the best wall that the Psychic type or the game even has ever seen, especially if that thing gets an EX version. So yeah, Wobbuffet might be really scary. Yeah, talking about something very scary and with a lot of potential, yeah, Girafarig is not that. That is going to be a 100% throwaway, forget about it. Okay, let's talk about the fighting type. So we start off with Podrod, which will be an absolute throwaway. The only way I could see them going with this, the only way I can see the developers going with Podrod would be a wall. But for some reason, every single Podrod out there, every card that exists for Podrod, it's not a wall for some reason. So I don't think that will be the case in Pocket either. So this thing is a complete throwaway trash. Then we have Donphan, which yeah, I absolutely despise. I don't think fighting type needs another stage 1 Pokemon. They have Sandslash, Dark Trio, Marowak and whatnot, man. They have enough stage 1 Pokemon for sure. So yeah, Sandslash, Dark Trio, Marowak, you name it, you know. So adding another stage 1 Pokemon, to me that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But yeah, maybe this could be a stage 1 wall or something. I don't even see the direction that they would go with this, even though I like Donphan's design. But yeah, I mean, it's a stage 1 for the fighting archetype. It's boring as hell, honestly. And next up we have Gligar. Yeah, this thing suffers the same fate as some other Pokemon, and that it will be completely useless until they release its evolution. I mean, the fighting type already has very good basic Pokemon. There's no way ever that Hitmonlee gets replaced, so yeah, I don't see Gligar with its poisoning do anything, to be honest. So yeah, this is gonna be a throwaway. And we have Sudowoodo. Now that one is interesting. It could be decent because it could act as a wall for the fighting type. That is something that the fighting type does not have. It does not have a wall. That is just a basic Pokemon, you know. That is always something to watch out for. And yeah, it might become a thing, but yeah, it could also very well end up as just a throwaway. Like, this is not gonna shake up the meta or anything. It's not gonna be something special. It's just gonna be at best a mediocre wall, and that's about it. And yeah, the only hope that the fighting type has, I think the fighting type is, the developers don't like the fighting type very much. Like, everything that it already has is like very, very mediocre, right? Sandslash, mediocre. Dark Trio, kinda bad. Primeape, mediocre. Marowak, mediocre because it's just coin flipping, you know? So the only hope that the fighting type has is, again, just as with Hitmonlee, it's another basic Pokemon. And even the Golem that they got is also very lackluster. I just want to throw that out there real quick. So, Hitmontop, that is the big hope that the fighting type has. Like, this thing better be a fucking EX Pokemon. Like, the fighting type needs help desperately. It's probably gonna get buffed just by the fact that Dark type is gonna be very, very strong in the next meta with Tyranitar and Umbreon. There is a chance. I think Tyranitar even has a weakness to Grass type, not even to the fighting type. So yeah, even that gets negated. See, I mean, that's what I mean. I don't think the developers like the fighting type very much. I just got that weird feeling. So they better do Hitmontop very, very good. Give it an EX Pokemon, make it really, really strong to help that fighting type out somehow. So now let's get into the second type that got introduced in Gen 2, which is Metal. And I have very, very high hopes for that typing, because yeah, it needs help desperately. That's the worst archetype that we have in the game currently, so yeah, it better get some help, and it does, trust me. I think Metal will be on top of the meta, just as with the Dark type, yeah, for the simple reason both of these types got introduced in Gen 2, and this expansion is gonna be focused around Gen 2. But yeah, we never know. There might be a legendary dog, one of those three, that might be busted as hell, or Ho-Oh takes over, Lugia takes over. Like, there's a lot of possibilities. But yeah, let's check out the Metal type, and let's start off with Fortress, which yeah, this is gonna be a throwaway, unfortunately, but it has this one thing, and that is that it might have Explosion, like a move that acts like Explosion, and that might save that card. You see this one right here is called Double KO, and it makes it so that Frostalka KOs itself, but it also KOs the opponent's active Pokemon, and that is a very, very good attack. If the Fortress that we get has an attack like this, that could save this card and make it really, really good. But now let's go and check out a real G for the Metal type, and that is gonna be Steelix. I can guarantee you this thing is gonna be really, really good. Like, please give it an EX Pokemon, and it's gonna be on top of the meta, guaranteed. It's gonna have the highest HP pool in the game, and it's gonna one-shot things left, right and center. Yeah, its attack, they might be a little bit expensive, because if you look at Onyx attack is also quite expensive, but Steelix will make that work somehow. It's gonna be worth it to set it up, and it will get set up because it has the necessary defense due to a very high HP pool. That's what I hope for Steelix. That's my prediction for Steelix, and that is one card that might make the Metal type extremely good and meta. And yeah, we also we will also get Scissor, and same as with Steelix, it's very likely that that thing also, just as Steelix, will get an EX version of itself. It will make me really happy, and it's going to be different from Steelix because this one is going to be really fast. It's going to have low energy investment and do a lot of damage with this low energy investment, so that is very quick. You can use Scissor EX in the early game to set up your Steelix on the bench, and those are gonna be your 2 EXs that you're gonna win the game with. That would be absolutely amazing, and I think the likelihood of that happening is very high. But yeah, there's more, right? Now the metal type needs a basic Pokemon that can act as a wall, and check this out. We might get a Portrot that is Steel type. No, I'm just kidding, of course. It's gonna be Skarmory. That thing is gonna be a basic Pokemon, and since it's metal type, it's gonna have a very high amount of HP. And yeah, probably an attack that reduces the damage it takes. And this is gonna be the wall, just in case you need to buy yourself some time to draw yourself into your stage 1 Pokemon, which are Scizor and Steelix. Like, that would be really a dream scenario for the metal type. That is what the metal type needs, and it would be really cool. Like, Skarmory, Scizor are very popular and very beloved, and even Steelix is pretty cool, right? Like, they will nail their artwork anyways, so yeah, Steel type could become really fun and really strong. If you want my prediction as well, I said this a couple of times by now, Metal and Dark type, those are gonna be the strongest decks in the game. Probably. Like, don't forget about the legendary dogs, Ho-Oh and Weala, and yeah, even Espeon and stuff. But yeah, I think it's very likely. And that's it. We did it. We covered every single Pokemon from Gen 2. That will most likely be the new expansion. I swear to God, if the expansion that drops on February 1st, by the way, will not be Gen 2, I'm gonna riot after doing this video. Like, that was actually a lot of work. Jesus Christ. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this content. I hope that was fun and yeah, you liked what you saw. Go to my comment section and tell me what you think about all of this stuff. Do you think I'm tripping? Do you think, yeah, reasonable what I said? Or yeah, tell me whatever you think. And yeah, of course, as I mentioned, the Gen 2 Pokemon are not everything that we're gonna get with this new expansion. There will be more. And I will go over this, like cards that we already have in this A1 expansion, like cards that are right now in the game. They might also get EX versions of themselves. Like, for example, since the fighting type needs a lot of help, Marshadow comes to mind. He might, for example, get an EX version, and there's more, right? So, or they might introduce Pokemon that act as evolutions for the Pokemon that we have right now. So I'm gonna make a video that covers all of this stuff as well, like everything that is very possible or yeah, quite likely, you know. What I'm not gonna do though is give you like some random stuff, right? There will be Pokemon that are not from Gen 2, for example, that will be in this expansion, and yeah, it could literally be anything, like from all 1,000 Pokemon that we have. You can just pick stuff by random and say, yeah, this is gonna be in the expansion. I'm not gonna do that one, you know. Only stuff that is quite likely, reasonable, and makes some sense. And right, I'm not gonna do any nonsense bullshit. So yeah, if you enjoy this kind of content, please consider leaving a like on this video, and yeah, leave a follow. That would be really appreciated. But until next time, take care of yourselves, have a great day, and bye bye.